Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. The Eye on College Basketball podcast is presented by Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's, a sub above. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent, and if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, knock that out while you're here. Okay, let's get into it. Today is Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. That means in 2 days, the Sweet 16 will get underway. 4 games on Thursday, 4 more games on Friday, 8 games featuring 16 teams from 11 different conferences. Let's stop here for a second, Deadleg. Do you, like me, love that the Sweet 16 has schools from 11 different conferences? We got a lot of variety here.
It's not, yeah, no, I love it. It's the first time since 2010 we've had that many conferences represented. And if you really look across it, you've got teams from across, you've got a good scattering of the country's landscape. You've got San Diego, you've got Princeton, New Jersey, you've got Alabama, you've got the middle of the country with Creighton. You really kind of go across. You got big city, UCLA, LA represented. You've got Austin, Texas represented. If you really look throughout the bracket, the Northeast is covered with UConn. So we have a lot of leagues and a lot of teams. Somewhat ironically, I will credit John Gassaway. He does this every single year. He updates on his Twitter feed the average seeding of the Sweet 16, and this one is an average year. If you take all 16 teams, divide them up, the average seed in this year's Sweet 16 is 4.6. That's just about what we have on average, dating back to the field expanding from 64 teams to 64 teams back in '85. The craziest year was 2021, which was the bubble tournament, so perhaps that tracks. But just 4 years ago was among the chalkiest. So that's at 3.1. So we've got good spread, but you might think that 11 leagues might lead us to maybe higher than normal average seeding. That's actually not the case. But this is great. Now the trade-off for that is, there's only one Big Ten team remaining, MSU. There's only one ACC team remaining in Miami. But you get CUSA, going this far for the first time since Memphis was in the league. You get the Ivy involved here, and so you have your big leagues, but the Mountain West finally breaks through. I do enjoy that we have such variety, and I think that's one of the major features and bonuses to this tournament.
The presence of Princeton brings up our standardized test score, I'm assuming, but it really messes up our Sweet 16 seed average. So it cuts both ways,
That's true. Yes, indeed.
It cuts both ways. All right, here's a question for you. I can only give you one conference right now. You can take one conference to win the national championship. Now, obviously, you've got 3 options in the SEC, 3 options in the Big East, 2 options in the Big 12, and then everybody else is just a one one representative. So what league would you take?
That's a good question, because we both have Houston winning it all. We had that on the night of the bracket coming out, and we haven't shifted off of that. So on one hand, you'd say that, but if you got your chances here, I mean, UConn can win the national championship. I have Creighton going to the Final Four, and I had Xavier making the Elite Eight at the start, so I'm not shifting off of those. Alabama's playing as well as anyone in the tournament, obviously. Tennessee now has a region where, to me, the East feels like throw all 4 in a hat, pull it out, and that's what it is at this point. So that's a good. I think. I guess I'd go SEC. I guess narrowly over the American, just because I have Houston. What about you?
I think I would take SEC, because you get Alabama, which is technically the betting favorite now to win the NCAA tournament. And then you get a Tennessee team that is technically the betting favorite to win the East Regional. And then you would also have Arkansas as an option. If you go Big East, you do get 3 top 15 KenPom teams in UConn, Creighton, and Xavier. The SEC is 3 in the top 19 in Alabama, Tennessee, and Arkansas. I think I go SEC, but it's reasonable to look at the Big East as well. And then if you just fundamentally believe in Houston, then you could maybe put all your eggs in that basket. But I'll take the SEC. I think if you told me I had to take a significant amount of money and bet it on one conference to win the national championship, give me the Southeastern Conference. It just means more.
That, well, in many ways, I suppose.
And sometimes, you could argue in some cases it means a little too much.
There you have it. This is the fourth Sweet 16 since 75 that doesn't have Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, or Carolina. Only 4 times have we gotten this far without at least one of those. The only previous national champs in the field, Michigan State, Arkansas, UConn, UCLA. So Parrish and I both agree that we are quite likely to get a first-time national champion. UCLA can win it. UConn can win it. Arkansas and Michigan State are much longer shots, but it feels like we are headed toward a first-time national champion. And with that in mind, there are 6 coaches that are going to be coaching in their first ever regional semi this weekend. Mitch Henderson, Rodney Terry, Dusty May, Dan Hurley, Brian Dutcher, Jerome Tang are the
Nada, did we lose Norlander?
I believe we lost him once again.
Oh, Lordy. I can never tell when he freezes, if he's freezing or if I'm the one on the outs here.
You have me. I was freezing. This happened on the Monday podcast as well. Do I think it's a coincidence that Indiana has been knocked out of the tournament in back-to-back days and I'm having Wi-Fi issues? I think that might be the case.
They got them Cavender girls. They're always up to something,
What I was gonna say was, can we just not have our Wi-Fi drop in the middle? Goodness. There are the only trivia time. You ready? Only 2 of the 8 Elite 8 games feature teams that have met before in the NCAA tournament. What are the 2 games that have teams that have faced each other in previous NCAA tournaments? One of them is obviously a layup.
UCLA Gonzaga.
Correct. And when of the 7 remaining, only one other game has teams that have played before in the NCAA tournament. Which one do you think it is?
I'm going to say that it's Arkansas and UConn had to have played at some point, right?
Feels like that would have been my guess too. It is not. The Hogs and Huskies are going to meet for the first time. It actually is Xavier, Texas. They have met before. All the other 6 matchups are first-time meetings on the big stage, and can't wait, man. Can't wait to break these games down. Can't wait to get to Thursday. Although I'm good with a little bit of a break, as are you. But I'm psyched. This is when I look at this. When I look at the 16 we have, the 8 games, there's just, I feel it every year. GP, we have a nice variety of matchups, of coaching styles, of storylines. There are plenty of teams still left in this bracket that we can see obviously winning 2 more games and winning the national title. You still have the likes of Bama and Houston teams, and you can even say UConn if you want, because it's been a top 10, top 5 KenPom team. There are still teams that are in this tournament that the predictive metrics have said have been elite level teams. And so on a certain level, you've got your heavy favorites, but you've got your surprise stories, and then you've got your Cinderella and Princeton. I wouldn't qualify FAU as a Cinderella. I wouldn't. Most would, because it's just not there every year. But FAU has been a top 25 team for most of the season, and we'll see what the Owls can do against the Vols at MSG on Thursday.
Okay, I want to touch on each of these regionals, and what we're going to do is start with the regionals that have games on Thursday. So that's the East and the West, and we'll talk East first. That's where you're going to get 7-seed Michigan State against 3-seed Kansas State, and 9-seed Florida Atlantic against a 4-seed in Tennessee. That's Thursday's doubleheader at Madison Square Garden in Midtown Manhattan. The losers of those games, done. The winners will play each other on Saturday. Right now, Tennessee is the favorite to come out of the East at plus 125, Michigan State at plus 300, Kansas State at plus 350, Florida Atlantic at plus 420. I think you and I are in agreement here. I know who I'll pick to come out of the East, but this is the one where you could tell me any of these teams make it, and I would go, okay, sure, that makes sense, because Tennessee's the favorite. Then there's Tom Izzo, and then does Kansas State maybe have the 2 best players?
That's the best combo. Yeah, it's got the best 1-2 in the region for sure.
And then Florida Atlantic's 33-3.
It's a 33-win team.
Yeah, so like any of these teams, I don't know that there is another regional where I can totally reasonably imagine any of the 4 teams getting out of it, but I can absolutely do that in the East.
I'm excited to be there on Thursday and watch this because yes, it is a grab bag. I can understand why if you step back and you look that maybe the East maybe might have the least appeal of the 4, although for some it might be the South, I guess. But it's probably the East. But that being said, the East also is the only region that has a coach that's won a national championship. Izzo's the only one in the field left that has a national title to his name, and it's the 5th time that it's the 3rd time that Izzo's gotten to a Sweet 16 as a 7 seed. He's reached 15 Sweet 16s in his life. He's the most of any head coach to come out of the Big Ten to do so. And the matchup, I'll just kind of home in real quick on K-State, Michigan State. Michigan State getting here is not a surprise. But if we had said on Selection Sunday only one Big Ten team is going to reach the Sweet 16, Parrish would have said, obviously. And no one would have really expected it to be Michigan State, given where it was in the bracket and the placement of some other Big Ten teams. But lo and behold, Izzo and Izzo. And this is a good 3-point shooting team. It had a wonderful game plan against Marquette. K-State's a different kind of opponent. And I mean, Marquise Noel is coming off a fabulous run here. I mean, he had 27 points, 9 assists, 3 steals for K-State against Kentucky. He's had better than 25 points and 20 assists in his first 2 career NCAA tournament games. That hasn't happened for a player since Jason Kidd. So he's understandably getting a ton of love. I love the storyline where you got a kid from the Big Apple, goes to the Little Apple, and is now going to return to the Big Apple to play in the Garden in the tournament. That is awesome. And I hope someone's handling his ticket situation there, because he's going to suddenly have 300 friends he didn't know he had that wants to get tickets to that game on Thursday night. And I look forward to seeing the Noel crew in the building to back him up. And between him and Keontae Johnson, the K-State story was a good story in college basketball this season. Jerome Tang was in the discussion basically since mid-December when we started to take stock at who was making some noise and, all right, who's National Coach of the Year material, and just early on. And then he stayed in that conversation the entire season. And now once you get to a Sweet 16, the 2 coaches, or 2 of the 3 or 4 coaches we talked about most for that, were Matt Painter and Shaka Smart, both in this region. They're gone. Jerome Tang is still sticking around. He made a regional semi in his first year, going from 10th place in the preseason in the Big 12 to a 3 seed, and now getting to play on a Thursday night in Midtown Manhattan. It's an awesome story. This will be a fascinating matchup. K-State obviously ranks as the better team, but I just wonder how Izzo is going to scheme up for Keontae. He's made a living off of shutting down the go-to option on opponents, for opponents and their best player. And K-State's going to want to run and get up and down the floor. Michigan State is not that style, and Michigan State will probably dictate those terms. It doesn't turn people over a ton, but it does shoot the 3 well. And I think that it probably is going to bank on that happening again. Tyson Walker has been tremendous as of late, not just in this tournament, but overall. AJ Hogard made a couple of really great plays, and Joey Hauser woke up as well. And then they have Malik Hall, who just kind of does a little bit of everything. He just steps up and gets it done. So I would expect a regression to the mean in a positive manner for MSU. It only went 2 of 16 from deep against Marquette. I don't think that's going to repeat itself against Kansas State. I will go with Kansas State narrowly in the game. I think that has a really, really good chance at being a very close game. I'll take them narrowly, but MSU making an Elite Eight is going to shock not one single human being on this planet if it happens.
Well, you mentioned Kansas State rates better, which is true. Kansas State's 21st at KenPom. Michigan State's 25th. Regardless, Michigan State is a 2-point favorite in the game. So the books have flipped this for Tom Izzo, which is notable. Izzo, by the way, is 10-4 all time in Sweet 16 games, and he's won each of his last 4 Sweet 16 games. So, listen, I'm picking Kansas State to win the game as well and advance to the Elite Eight. I had Kansas State in the Elite Eight in my original bracket on Selection Sunday, but the Tom Izzo factor is a is a real thing. Jerome Tang said after Kansas State beat Kentucky, those old Kentucky players are not, they can't help you. Anthony Davis, he didn't say this, but what he was saying, Anthony Davis and Karl Anthony Towns, they're not walking through that door. They can't impact this basketball game. But Tom Izzo, even though he's not on the court, can impact that basketball game. And it does appear that the betting markets have moved the number off of what it ordinarily would be, at least in some, in some ways, because of the presence of Tom Izzo on this stage. I love this game. Marquise Noel from Harlem, Tyson Walker on the other side, went to Christ the King in Queens. So you got two little New York City guards going at it in the Sweet 16 in Madison Square Garden. So that's awesome. And then in the other game, Rick Barnes, 3-4 all time in Sweet 16 games. UT is -4 according to KenPom, but the line is Tennessee -5.5. So that's something to worth paying attention to. Florida Atlantic is now up to 22nd at KenPom. And if you remember, we talked a lot throughout the season about Tennessee's inconsistent resume. The one thing Tennessee has been good at is against other good teams. Tennessee is 6-1 against top 25 KenPom teams this season, 6-1. Now they got 9 losses to sub 25 KenPom teams, but they're 6-1 against top 25 KenPom teams. So, it gives me a little hesitation that the KenPom number is Tennessee -4, and the point spread's actually more than that. But I think Florida. I'm going to take Florida Atlantic. I think Florida Atlantic wins the game. So obviously, I would.
We just did them in. Yeah,
it's over for them.
We are doing Final Four and 1, and so this is one of them. Game 1.
The way we're going to do the Final Four and 1 today is I'm going to pick one game from each regional. We'll do it as we go through the regionals, and then Deadleg will have his and one at the end. Oh, by the way,
you've been mounted and surmounted. That's by the way. Okay.
Have I been surmounted?
Yeah. Nada. Can we get an update?
Have I been surmounted?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even call it mounted. What happened to you? Norlander's up 3 games.
Just like that.
You kind of went 0-5 over last week.
What? How did I do that?
Just you being you.
You took Drake. That's why.
Yeah. Problem.
That
was a problem.
It all went wrong with Drake. So.
Yeah.
Well,
that's unfortunate.
It is.
That's a little deflating. I was wrong.
Yep. That's right.
That's quite the turn of events.
That's true. By the way, going region by region, this is smart by you because you know what that means. I can't do this. I can't do that for 30 minutes, so we're not done.
Game 1. I'm a little deflated now.
You've been surmounted is what you've been.
I was under the impression I had been surmounted. I did not know I had been surmounted so dramatically. That's a tough thing to deal with on a Tuesday morning.
It is.
Game 1, Florida Atlantic, Tennessee. Vols -5.5. I've already let it known. I'm taking Florida Atlantic plus the 5.5.
Congrats to Tennessee.
It's over for them.
Because I'm also taking Florida Atlantic plus the 5.5, and I'm taking Florida Atlantic straight up. FAU is going to win the game.
I got Florida Atlantic straight up too. They're going to lose by 22 points.
It's over for them.
It's over. Dusty,
Hootie,
I'm happy for you. Hootie hoo! I'm happy for you. You had a wonderful season, but I'm afraid you have no chance of winning this next game because we both picked you to win it.
It's over. It is. This is the first Conference USA team, as mentioned before, to make the second weekend since the Memphis Tigers in 2009. Credit to Chris Falica, the Bear. He put this out on Twitter, though. 4 seeds are 6-10 facing teams seeded 8th or 9th in the Sweet 16 since 2000. They're 2-7 against the spread when facing them. So 6-10 overall 4 seeds are versus 8 or 9s. Keep that in mind. Janelle Davis, by the way, has been a dude for the Owls, man. 29 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals in FAU's win over FDU. The first player to ever do that in a tournament. FDU couldn't sustain itself down the stretch. FAU pulled away, and it was basically because of Davis. Davis single-handedly outscored the Knights over the final 8+ minutes of that game. Listen, the reason in all seriousness, the reason why I'm taking Florida Atlantic in this one is 33 wins. It's got experience up and down the roster. There is no team that is in this tournament that is more experienced playing with each other and has a deeper bench. And I actually think that does matter with the way that Dusty May and this team plays. They get out and guard you beyond the 3-point line and on the interior. They are reliable in that regard. Now, to get here, FAU needed a break from the officials because Memphis probably should have had that timeout. They called a jump ball. The arrow went to the Owls, so they got that near the end of the game. And then they were able to rally late, but they didn't shoot well for the majority of that game against FDU, 16 seed, maybe got a little bit tight. Now they're here. FAU has been abnormally subpar shooting the ball basically since it got to postseason play. It played well against UAB, but first couple of CUSA tournament games and then against Memphis and FDU, it just hasn't been shooting well. Tennessee is not the team to break that trend against, normally speaking, but maybe the hoop gets a little bit bigger there. The Vols are coming off such an extremely impressive defensive performance. They jumped UCLA. They're now the number 1 per possession defense again in college basketball, according to Ken Palm. So it's going to be difficult. Teams are only shooting 26.4% from 3-point range against Tennessee. That has been something that has been existed since the start of the season. On average, FAU shoots 36.7. If you're the Owls, you're hoping you play well and you're above 30%, and you take the hockey shifts and hopefully you show out. It'll be interesting, but I'll take FAU to win straight up, which means I've got Owls versus Wildcats in the Elite Eight.
To the West Regional. It's where we got 8-seed Arkansas, 4-seed UConn, and then 3-seed Gonzaga against the 2-seed UCLA. That's Thursday's doubleheader. It's out at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Losers are done. Winners play Saturday. UConn, UCLA are actually the co-favorites to come out of the West at plus 210. Gonzaga's plus 225. Arkansas plus 550. What interests you about the West Regional?
Pretty much everything. This is the best 2-pack on the board, as far as I'm concerned. I think many people, if you're not invested in any of specifically the other teams playing, you might agree. You might even agree, regardless of that. It is incredible that Gonzaga's made an 8 straight Sweet 16. That's now the 3rd longest streak in the history of the sport since the bracket expanded. Anyway, only Carolina and Duke did better. Carolina went 13 years in a row, 81-93. Duke went 98-06, and now Gonzaga's done it 8 straight years. Timmy, by the way, love to see it. We talked to Timmy obviously recently on the pod because I did the big feature on him, and Gonzaga, had the standalone stuff with the WCC title run. He's now had, and this graphic was flashed on the screen, so if you were watching, you would have seen it on Sunday. But he's now in this company. He's had 20 or more points in 9 tournament games, 1 more, and he's going to have the record. He's going to have the most 20-point. If he gets 20, even if Gonzaga loses, he gets 20 against UCLA. He has the record right now. Rip Hamilton, Corliss Williamson, Glenn Rice, Danny Manning, Elvin Hayes, and Bill Bradley. Come on, man, that's incredible company. So, and I love the F-bomb to Andy Katz over the air. I thought that was all too appropriate for Drew Timme. Gonzaga's, it is looking like the team that people thought it should look like when they picked it to reach the regional final here or make the Final Four, and it's going to go up against the UCLA squad that I think has comported itself pretty damn well. This is the team that's 3rd overall in Ken Palm, 2nd in defense. And it got a good game from Northwestern. It did, but Jaime Jaquez was awesome again. And I thought Amari Bailey played pretty well. Singleton went down. I guess he's expected to play. I mean, I don't know if we have that 100% confirmed at this point, but after the game, Cronin and Singleton basically shrugged it off, which is great to see. I hope he's on the floor. I want to get the best game possible. And this game will land on the 17-year anniversary to the day, I think, right? I've heard a few people say that, so I'm taking it for the word. I don't actually, what, GP, I'll check this in real time right now here. Who do you like in Gonzaga versus UCLA? Because this is the best. This is the best of the regional semis, all 8 games.
That's my favorite game. of the Sweet 16. I will take Gonzaga to win the game. Obviously, there's history between these two programs. Just 2 years ago is when you had Jalen Suggs at the buzzer in OT in the Final Four, bubble Final Four, banked it in. Bill Raftery with the call. He said, quote, "There are onions, Jim, and then there are major onions with a kiss."
Yeah.
And, of course, the game you're referencing is the 2006 game where the Zags were up 71-62 with 3:14 left. And then UCLA scored the final 11 points to win the game 73-71. I went back and watched the end of this last night.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, it's hard to watch.
It is the 17 year to the day, 17 years when they play this game. It will be. Yeah.
So they're up 71-62 with 3:14 left, and UCLA closes on an 11-0 run, wins the game 73-71. Everybody remembers the picture, the visual of Adam Morrison sitting on the court crying. He started crying before the game was over.
Correct.
Like the game is still up for grabs, and he's already in tears after his team had collapsed the way they had collapsed. It's trivia time.
Okay. By the way, as you say this, that is a choke. Gonzaga choked that game. 17 years removed. It takes two to tango on this kind of stuff. It's one of the most. Whatever. Go ahead with the trivia. They lost the game, man. Let's doing it.
That's a lot like 2008 Memphis, Kansas. Where the Tigers were up 9 with less than 2 to play, and sometimes people will get into these they'll ask questions like, "So did they give it away, or did Kansas win it? Did Memphis lose it?" Memphis lost it, and in this one, Gonzaga lost it. Yeah. Simply put, you can't be up 9 points with less than 2 to play and lose unless you lose it. I don't care how well the other team plays; you have to contribute to it. Yeah. And it's the same thing here. If you're up 9 with 3:14 left. There's no way for you to lose unless you contribute to it. You lose
Batista it. With the catch. What's the trivia?
God, well, that's the Gonzaga had a decent shot at the buzzer to tie it. Who took the shot?
Come on. Batista with the catch.
It was J.P. Batista. He got a pretty good look.
He did indeed. Yep. Didn't go down, though. Yeah. Man, 06. End of Morrison's career. What's going to happen here on Thursday? T-Mobile Arena. Who's winning this game?
I got the Zags winning the game. I got the Zags +2, and I got the Zags advancing. I'm going to keep saying this until it happens. And if it doesn't, then we'll just forget about it. But the Jalen Clark thing has to matter at some point.
Keep saying it.
Just keep saying it.
And now, as we get ready for the UCLA Bruins taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide, the national title game, let's go to Gary Parrish. The Jalen Clark injury has to matter at some point.
You cannot lose a player as valuable as Jalen Clark so deep into the season without it mattering at some point. I'm just going to keep saying it every UCLA game until they lose, and then I'll be able to circle back. Then I'll be like, listen, I've been telling you the whole time the Jalen Clark thing was going to matter at some point. Now here we are. So I'm going to take the Zags. The other game, Arkansas, UConn.
I didn't pick the game yet.
Well, that's what we're going to do in the Final 4 and 1. You're getting all.
I thought we were picking it right now. This is one of the games, is it not?
Here's the Final 4 and 1.
So are we picking it right now?
I don't care. Look at me. Does it look like I care when we pick this game?
We're picking it right now.
Okay.
What's the line?
UCLA -2.
Game 2. What's the name of this damn place? Where are they playing this game?
It's T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas and T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. I think
a double T-Mobile situation?
We got 2 T-Mobiles in the regionals. We got 2 T-Mobiles.
Situation here. Yeah. I'm taking Gonzaga. Oh gosh, we're dooming programs left and right here. Gonzaga to cover, Gonzaga to win. What do you want from me? Got to do it. Drew Timmy show goes on. Gonzaga gets it done. Atones for 2006. Adam Morrison, by the way, will be in the building. He does radio for Gonzaga, so he will be there. Won't be the same building. Will be the same regional against the same team. Only one coach will be the same. By the way, this is the Short Kings region. Have you noticed that? I mentioned this before, I think, on our Sunday pod, but they continue to move on. Muss, Cronin, Few. Dan Hurley's the tallest of the bunch, and he's like 6 feet, 6'1".
Who's the shortest of the bunch?
I think it's Cronin. I do. I think it's Cronin. But it's a tough call. An enterprising reporter that's going out to this needs to get those coaches all together and get them in a lineup like usual suspects. Just get them right there, side by side. I think Cronin's the shortest.
We need Mick to take his shirt off like Muss.
Yes. Listen, I don't think it'd be hard to convince Hurley to do it if they won. Muss already promised that he's taking the shirt off again if Arkansas wins. Hell, he might take it off if they lose. I think, Few's got a decent build. Can we just make this the shirtless region? Can we just get a shirtless celebration in both?
How about this? If you had to take any region and you have all 4 coaches have to go topless, what package of coaches is best equipped to be topless? I think it's the West. It's not even close, is it?
Let's go through it real quick. So you got Oates versus Dutcher, and you've got Henderson versus McDermott. Let's move on. You've got Dusty May.
Dusty
Good looking
May,
dude.
He's put together. Dusty May. I think Dusty May would look fine with his shirt off.
Barnes.
I think Rick would look fine with his shirt off.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I think so. For a man his age.
On Izzo, how's that show looking? And then you've got Jerome Tang. He's doing well for himself, but we'll move on. And then you've got the Midwest, Kelvin Sampson versus Jim Larinaga. Let's definitely move on. And then at the bottom, we're going with Sean Miller and Rodney Terry. The answer is the West.
The West, man. If you got to see one regional's coaches all topless, you definitely want it to be the West. I think that's what we've established.
We got the chat is saying Musselman 5'7", Cronin listed at 5'8". I could believe it might be Muss, but I think it might be Cronin. We've got to figure this out. Can someone determine this before? Did it really just have that segment?
Where else are you going to get a Sweet 16 breakdown on which regionals coaches would look best topless? Where else are you getting that?
You know what? I should be, even though we've already done it, I'm going to tweet this out right now as if we're about to talk about it, and this is going to be pure clickbait. Come watch our podcast. We're going to talk about which set of coaches you'd rather see shirtless in celebration. Go ahead and preview this UConn Arkansas game while I do this.
Where are you at on Nick Smith? He only played 16 minutes in the round of 32. Our friend Seth Davis had a Sweet 16 preview at The Athletic earlier today. He wondered, has Eric Musselman moved on from Nick Smith Jr.? What do you think?
Has Eric Musselman moved on from Nick Smith Jr.? In what regard?
Is he a 16-minute-a-game guy now?
I don't think so. I think they're going to need him to play really, really well in this game in order to beat UConn, because I just watched UConn have its way with both. Like, UConn got a good push in the first half from both Iona and St. Mary's, 2 drastically different teams. And then, Hurley downplayed the halftime adjustments, and that's fine, but there were adjustments nonetheless. I mean, it was a combination of the roster construction of UConn and what Hurley and his staff were able to do, and they just ran away from both those teams, won by a combined 39 points. Arkansas will not be able to buck that trend if that were to happen. Like, they're going to need Nick Smith to show up, show well, and won't just, Ricky Council's been very, very important. Maybe this is the Anthony Black breakout game. I don't know, but Arkansas getting here to this point and playing a really good game against Kansas, playing an even better game against Illinois. As long as, they get those guys, Devo Davis coming off of one of the best games of his career. It's a fascinating matchup. It can go either way. UConn is objectively the better team, but Arkansas, been to 2 straight Elite Eights. It's actually trying to get to an Elite Eight for the 3rd straight year for the first time in program history. Never done that. It's a victory away from pulling that off. But this is my and one. Are we doing this out of order, or are we circling back on this? How's this working?
You're looking at a man who on back-to-back nights has stayed up till 5 a.m. and gotten up at 6 a.m. That's a tough one. And that's my way of saying I don't really care.
And one.
And one right now.
It's UConn minus 3.5. This game will tip at 7:15 Eastern on CBS on Thursday. Who you got?
I'm UConn minus 3.5. At some point, the Jalen Clark injury has to matter.
It has to matter for Arkansas. You're absolutely right.
At some point, the Jalen Clark injury has to matter for Arkansas.
That's correct. At some point, it's going to be a factor for the Hogs. People have been ignoring this for weeks at this point, and I'm done with it. I will also take Connecticut to win. Adama Sanogo, first player since Blake Griffin in 2009 to average better than 25 and 10 and shoot 70% or better from the field through 2 tournament games. He's been awesome, but it hasn't just been him. UConn has been able to get plenty out of Tristan Newton. Jordan Hawkins took a minute to wake up against St. Mary's, but wake up he did. And when Sanogo goes out and then they put Klingon in, and just there's no other team in the country that has that. You know, the guy that would be a starting big on almost any other team in the country is coming off the bench, and UConn can competently go 9 deep. I just the roster is very good. This is the first Sweet 16 for Hurley. I get that, but I will take the Huskies. There's a reason why they are in the top 5 for shortest odds to win the national title. So I got them winning and covering.
We're going to get to the South Regional next, but first, a word from our partners.
Absolutely magisterial here.
So we've talked through the East and West regionals. Now we're going to move to the South, which is 5-seed San Diego State against the 1-seed Alabama, 15-seed Princeton against the 6-seed. That's Creighton. It's Friday's doubleheader. It's at the Yum Center in Louisville. Losers are done. Winners play Sunday. Alabama's the favorite to come out of the South at minus 140, so a pretty heavy favorite there. Creighton at plus 200. San Diego State plus 575. Princeton plus 2,000. What interests you about the South?
Both the games have a good chance at being close finishes, you know, tight in the final couple of minutes here. Alabama, San Diego State. SDSU's defense, I think, is going to get Alabama into a little bit of a blender here. The Tide also play good defense. I think this game could well be decided under 70. Crimson Tide, what will we get from Brandon Miller in this situation? He didn't score against Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and then against Maryland had a good game. He had 19 points and 7 rebounds. Quinterly was tremendous in that game, and they got some good stuff out of Bediako there. But San Diego State's a different kind of opponent. It has rated well for most of the season, but particularly in the past month, it's really turned it on. And SDSU is probably a tricky scout for Bama in terms of, you look at them and they've got Trammell, who's 5'10", Lamont Butler's a little undersized, Matt Bradley, he can play like he's almost like a college poor man's version of Charles Barkley. Like he's 6'4", but he can step out and shoot, can be a really good rebounder, stays on the floor, has tremendous stamina. But they're not overloaded. Like Nathan Mensah's a big, but they're not overloading you with size, but they are pushing you back with their toughness there. And I think that Bama's going to get a good push. I'm going to take Alabama to win the game, but something about this one tells me that the Aztecs are going to be able to keep it close and keep it low scoring, because they've been able to do that a lot this season. Only one loss for this program, by the way, since we got to February for San Diego State, so it has also played well as of late. I take that into consideration. Creighton, Princeton, it's just fun to have this game on the board, man. Fun to have a 15 again for a third straight year. These are blessed times we're living in. Creighton, I barely saw any of the Baylor game because of what I was doing in Albany. I caught like a minute here, a minute there. But from what I saw and just kind of checking in afterward, it was just, they were in control of the game, and Baylor's defense let it down like it did most of the season. And so here we are. But for Creighton to, in getting to the Sweet 16, it's 2 wins, but it kind of brings some more validation to its preseason ranking as a top 10 team. Certainly if it gets to the Elite 8, that will be validated tangibly by being one of the 8 teams still remaining here, and it's favored to do so. It is going to be a lot for Princeton. Princeton was able to dictate almost everything in the Arizona game and the Missouri game. And those are two high-scoring teams that were held to season lows or near season lows in those games. Doing it against Creighton isn't going to be the same exact deal because Creighton is way more stout defensively than Arizona and Missouri. It's got more weapons. It's got better. It's got size, toughness, athleticism, NBA players on the roster, and so I think this is a little bit tougher of an ask. And I will take Creighton to win. But Princeton even getting to this point is amazing stuff, and I'm very, very excited to watch that game.
On Alabama, San Diego State, you got two teams that are both ranked in the top 5 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. Alabama 3, San Diego State 5. So this is, two of the best defensive teams in the country, and Nate Oates will be coaching. Just a few days removed from Nick Saban, intentionally or unintentionally, taking a pretty solid shot at him. Did you see these quotes last night?
I did. Yes.
So Alabama had a defensive back named Tony Mitchell, got arrested in Florida. He was clocked at 141, had a whole bunch of weed in the car, gun in the car, a lot of stuff you're not supposed to do. And Alabama suspended him while it gathered more information about the situation. That's an interesting approach. The Alabama football program decided, you know what, we're going to suspend you until we can gather some more information about the situation. It's obviously not how the basketball program handled the Brandon Miller situation. Nick Saban's quote, "Everybody's got an opportunity to make choices and decisions. There's no such thing as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There is cause and effect when you make choices and decisions that put you in bad situations," end quote. Did you interpret that as a not so subtle shot at Nate Oates in the basketball program, or he just happened to use the same wrong place, wrong time choice of words, but it was unintentional?
Random, I just got a text like 2 minutes ago. Tobin Anderson is going to Iona, by the way, FDU's coach. So I'm sure that's out there on Twitter right now. But yeah.
Yes,
so
it's out there.
It's out there. Okay. So so Tobin Anderson to Iona, that was suspected, but FDU is now looking for a coach, and Iona has replaced Rick Pitino in less than 24 hours. As to your question there, I think that there was someone from Alabama on the football side, communications said that this was not intentional. Of course, they're going to say it wasn't an intentional shot. It might not have been intentional, but I think if you're Nick Saban and you're living around that area and you've heard that phrase used in a critical manner, like on some sort of subconscious level, it just creeps in, and it's a common phrase. So I don't think he did it to take a shot at Nate Oates, but obviously it did stand out. Yes, it very much stood out. And even though it's on the football side, it's just yet another thing. These are after effects of the things said and decisions made and not made about Alabama amid all this. And so, it just continues to be the story that we knew it would be. And we'll see how they play against San Diego State. They looked really, really good through the first two rounds, but now is when the competition becomes even tougher and the lights get even brighter.
So this will technically be game 3 of the final 4-1. It is San Diego State, Alabama, Crimson Tide -7.5. I have to go opposite of you here.
That's right. I have San Diego State. I have San Diego State covering here.
You're going to make me go against my Aztecs?
Yep.
I don't get to root for my Aztecs?
You can root for them, but you have to take Alabama per your own rules.
Damn it. Got too many rules on myself,
Yep.
I've handcuffed myself with too many rules. It's the story of my life. All right. I got to take Alabama -7.5. But just know I believe in my Aztecs. I actually like it sincerely. I think Alabama wins the game. I think it's close. I think I would, if I were free to make my own decision here, I would take San Diego State plus the 7.5. But I'm not free to make my own decision, so it's Alabama -7.5. Let's go to the Midwest Regional.
Yep.
5 seed Miami, 1 seed Houston, 3 seed Xavier against the 2 seed Texas. That's Friday's doubleheader at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Losers are done. Winners play Sunday. Houston's the favorite to come out of the South. To come out of the Midwest at -120. Texas +210. Xavier +650. Miami plus 750. Miami's been the opposite
Wait
of
a sec. Yeah, right. Never mind. Okay. Technically, the third game was my and one.
no.
That was the third game in the list.
No, the and one
Okay.
game is the and one game.
Just making sure.
The and one game is always the and one game. We're
Just
doing them out of
making sure.
order.
All right. I just wanted to be certain on this. All right. You have very specific rules chronologically. The third game on the board that was picked was that one, but we're going with San Diego State. I'm just making sure. Okay.
It's a very confusing podcast. It's a very confusing podcast. Miami's been the opposite of computer trickers all year. They can't. Co-ACC champs, 27-7, in the Sweet 16, still 32nd at KenPom. They started 42nd at KenPom this season, dropped to 50th at one point, still only 32. I believe Princeton is the only team lower at KenPom left in this NCAA tournament. Princeton down at 91. Opposite of computer trickers.
How's that sitting with you?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I think at some point it catches up with you. I mean, the Jalen Clark injury has got to matter
Okay.
at some point. And a game against the number one seed Houston Cougars seems like a place where this could – we might look up at the end of this and say if Miami would have had a healthy Jalen Clark, it could have turned out differently. You know?
Yeah. I know.
This is my new thing I'm going to do.
Okay. Everyone's aware. The thing
Every
is, you need to do it on CBS Sports Network.
Every time a team loses, no matter the team,
do it on television. is what you need to do.
no matter the team, every time a team loses, no matter the team, I'm just going to say, if Xavier played hard and they were in it, man, they were in it to the final couple of minutes. And it's just hard not to think about, like, if Xavier would have had a healthy Jalen Clark, this could have been a different story.
Yeah.
And then we'll go straight to Miami, Houston. And I'll be like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but if Miami would have had a healthy Jalen Clark, I could have seen this go down differently. Every team left is just a healthy Jalen Clark away.
That actually might be true.
I think it is true. I think
you're onto something.
I think I am onto something. Everybody else out there is talking about what UCLA could maybe do with a healthy Jalen Clark. I take it a step further. I tell you what everybody could do with a healthy Jalen Clark.
It's true. Did Houston get a little push from Auburn? And then are we going to look up and it's in the Final Four, having, torn through this regional? I'm not all the way there on that. I don't know. Miami was really impressed. Now so Miami, it went on a 16-1 run to beat Drake. Like, Drake almost had him. And then Miami got through that. It got a push from Indiana. That was, I was there courtside in Albany. That was supremely impressive what the Hurricanes did to knock the Hoosiers out of the tournament. And they got it from everyone. Like Norchad Omier. Remember when we were unsure if he was going to play to start the tournament? Dude had 17 rebounds. He is a beast. The dude is him against Jarris Walker in this game is going to be incredible. Incredible. And then the wings, Wong hit the big three from deep to kind of to seal it. But Jordan Miller continues to be just awesome. Nigel Pack is a threat as well. Wooga Poplar, come on, man. Best name left in the tournament? Wooga? Love it. They're real, man. They can Miami can win the game. No doubt. What's the line here, GP? This isn't even a Final Four in one game, is it? I'm picking it anyway. What's our line? You don't have it, do you?
Oh, I can get it right here. It's the Miami game. Houston minus 7.
I picked this for the site. I think I took Miami to cover, and I will go here, but I'll take Houston to win. Don't sleep on this game. This two very, very, they're dudes all over the floor in this matchup, and Jim Larinaga is no joke. I'll have a column up on Larinaga later on Tuesday on CBSSports.com. It's what he's been able to do has been awesome. And the heart of the piece is basically, the guy has been adaptive across his whole career. And like he gets some credit for that, but I don't know if he gets all the credit he deserves. He has more wins at Miami than the program had in the tournament than the program had before he got there. It had 4 wins in the tournament in its history. Now he's got them to 5, and now he's in the back-to-back Sweet 16s. Has done where he's at 9 tournament wins. I don't know. I got to fact check that number, but I do know this: he definitely has more wins at Miami than the program had before he got there in the NCAA's, and it's really impressive what he's been able to do. I will take Houston; they're my national champion.
In this regional, you've got like the guards are just terrific. Marcus Esser, Jamal Shedd, Tremont Mark, Nigel Pack, Isaiah Wong, Marcus Carr, Tyrese Hunter, Sir'Jabari Rice, Sule Boom, Adam Kunkel. Like you got really good guards in for both teams, for all 4 teams in both games. Sort of interesting. We could have a regional final between 2 coaches who were once fired for scandals. Kelvin Sampson at Indiana, Sean Miller at Arizona, and we could get Kelvin Sampson against Sean Miller in the Elite 8. Texas also as a university had to, you might have heard, fire a coach for off the court issues. So a lot of that stuff going on in this regional. I also have Houston getting past Miami, but I won't be surprised if the Hurricanes are competitive. Ultimately, though, not having Jalen Clark is going to be a big issue for them. For the Final 4-1 in this regional, we're going to pick Texas Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
It's Texas -4. This is game 4. This is technically game 4.
It's game 4. I'm going Xavier. I had Xavier beating Texas in my bracket originally. Wonder if Xavier is going to buck the trend of 3-point shooting in this tournament. 31.2% collectively in the tournament from 3. It's the worst shooting performance in NCAA tournament history to this point, since we've obviously had a 3-point line. So that's a little bit weird. I'm blaming it entirely on the color of these basketballs. They're distracting to watch during the games. You agree, GP?
I haven't noticed the difference.
Very strange shade of orange. Am I on an island here?
Is that something that other people are talking about, or is this just you?
I don't know. I don't know if literally anyone else has noticed, but I can't help but notice. Yeah, the Wilson. Listen, I've got a Wilson basketball myself. I don't like the color of the basketball, and that's what I'm blaming it on.
Who did you take? Texas or Xavier?
I'm taking Xavier. I'm taking Xavier straight up. I think they shoot it well. Sean Miller gets to yet another Elite 8, and I will go with the Musketeers. This is my second favorite regional semi on the board. I think it's got a wonderful chance at being a wonderful game. Texas has had some really good 3-point shooting performances as of late, and Rodney Terry's done an outstanding job. Between Marcus Carr, Sir'Jabari Rice, Dylan Dessou, they've had guys step up and have some really huge games, and that could be on the table again here. What will benefit Xavier is this: they're not deep. Like Xavier had no legs left when it got run out of the building by Marquette in the Big East title game. You get some time to rest. They're going to get 6 full days. They played Penn State on Saturday. They don't play again until Friday night here. I don't know if I can trust Xavier if it wins here and then Houston turning around waiting 2 days later. That might be a little bit too tough for X. But in this spot, to me, it feels like a coin flip toss up. I will go with the Musketeers to push on through and win what I think really could be. It's got a great chance to be a thriller.
Okay, so we picked 5 Final 4-1 games. We have gone through all 4 regionals. We will update our Final 4 picks before we get out of here. But first, I want one more word from our partners.
Bring on the Roars. Major style price. Oh, yes.
Deadlick, how many Final 4 teams you got left in your original bracket?
3. What about you?
3 as well.
All right. What 3 do you have?
Houston.
Yep.
Alabama.
Nope.
And
okay, this shouldn't be that hard.
What is the other one?
Did you not have UConn?
Oh, yeah, and UConn. Houston, Alabama, and UConn.
Okay. I've got Houston, Creighton, Gonzaga. We both missed on Purdue.
We both missed on Purdue, so we both got to pick a new East Regional final.
In fact, hold on. As we do this, glad you brought this up. We have a bracket games challenge. Let's check it out. How about your guy?
Have I been surmounted there as well?
There are more than there's more than 2,500 of you that have joined this. I'm 75th right now. I'm going to give a shout out right now to the folks here, the folks in the top 7. Nelson Albino, he's got Gonzaga winning it all. Nick, ooh, that's a tough name. Juskewycz. Nick J, that's what you're getting. Yeah. Houston winning it all. Austin Ratsky also has Houston winning it all. Jeff Halpin has Houston winning it all. Alex Crew has Texas. Zach Hatton has Gonzaga. And then 7th place, Emmett Siegel also has Houston. I'm told there will be prizes for the people that that finish at the top. I don't know if that's top 3. I don't know how any of that's working.
Where am I ranked right now? Where do you think I'm ranked right now?
In order for you to find that out, can I search? I don't think this is searchable. I don't think I can find you here, GP. I think you need to go into the CBS Sports, the Ion College basketball one, and then it'll show you where you stand. Can you bring that up? Do you have that? Do you have that ability?
I don't know how to do all this.
All right, we'll just say you're 2000s right now. All right.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm ranked 587th.
Oh, you got it done. Okay.
I'm in the top 600.
587. Well, I'm 75.
I know, but I'm in the top 600.
You're doing well. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
I knew eventually the Jalen Clark injury was going to catch up with me.
It did. Unquestionably.
So we both got to pick new winners of the East Regional. Who do you have winning the East Regional now?
Hootie who? Florida Atlantic, FAU, Dusty May. Let's go. Owls swooping right out of the Garden and down into Houston. 33-win team. They win a grinder against Tennessee. They go up against K-State. That bench depth comes in huge. They have a huge breakout shooting performance in a regional final in Madison Square Garden. They get it done. And for what? The 6th, 7th time in the past 17 years, we have yet another Cinderella type story in the Final Four. From George Mason to Butler to Wichita State, VCU, Loyola Chicago. FAU is the next group in line. Dusty May and the Owls are going to Houston. That's my pick.
I've got Kansas State.
Well, you sound thrilled.
I am thrilled. What would be better than Kansas State? Jerome
FAU.
Tang? Okay, maybe FAU, sure. But Jerome Tang in the Final Four in his first season as a Division I head coach?
It'd be something, man. It really would.
Keontae Johnson helping a team get to the Final Four.
Last time Kansas State made a Final Four was? I don't know either. I'm looking up right now. I'm trivia timing both of us. I'm going to blindly say, I'll say Kansas State last made a Final Four in 63. What's your guess?
It feels like a never.
Let's bring it up right now. I feel like they've made it. Kansas State Final Four 64. Give it to your boy.
1964.
They made it 48, 51, 58, and 64.
Oh, I do remember that. Because in the Elite Eight, remember they were playing that team that had just lost Jalen Clark.
I knew you were going to say that.
I remember that 64.
Shouts to Tex Winter.
Shouts to Tex Winter. All right, so what's your championship game now? Mine's still the same as it was, Alabama-Houston.
Dude, I have got
Houston winning it.
So so you still have that on pace, which makes sense. Because Purdue is out and I had Purdue in the title game, I have Houston still winning it all. I have Houston over the Creighton Blue Jays in the national championship game because I took Creighton. I'm still sticking with it. Like I said, that's very much on the table. But yes, I have Creighton beating FAU on the left side of the bracket, and then I've got Houston beating Gonzaga. So I've got Houston over the Jays in the championship. Creighton, by the way, has never made an Elite Eight. So I've got it breaking through that and then getting all the way to Monday night.
And then you ultimately think that on that Monday night against Houston, the loss of Jalen Clark will be too much.
I think it catches up to Creighton. I do.
Eventually, and I think Greg McDermott would tell you this, eventually not having Jalen Clark is a problem for Creighton. They're like one Jalen Clark away from, I think, doing the whole thing. Yeah. To lose Mason Miller to a high ankle sprain and not have Jalen Clark on the same NCAA tournament. It's the type of thing that catches up with you eventually.
I agree.
How many HQ hits you got today?
I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure. Might be. I guess I might be interviewing Drew Timmy on HQ though for tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that.
Get him to cuss at you.
Should I try? I will have to run that by the bosses, but if they are clear with Timmy cussing on HQ, then maybe that's become a thing. By the way.
Oh, everybody's cussing. Everybody's cussing.
Everyone's just like, F it.
Jamie Erdahl handled it the best. Did you see Jamie's?
I did, yeah.
I mean, Jamie didn't cuss. Who cussed with Jamie?
It was the FAU player. By the way, Nada, we're doing this live in real time on YouTube. Is that going to be is that going to be on the audio version, that montage I sent you, so people will have actually heard that?
Yeah. That montage that I completely spaced on doing at the beginning of the show. Yeah, that will be on the audio version. It will not be on the video version. I apologize for that.
If you've got to the end of this podcast, you heard our HQ producers had this awesome montage of first weekend stuff, and in that is the Erdahl clip with
yeah. So
I think
he cusses and then he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," and Jamie's like, "It's fine. It happens to all of us. We're on True TV. We're on True TV." Was the funniest part.
I know. Yeah, I think it was Janelle Davis that did that, but no, it was awesome. And yeah, you had
Jamie had an awesome weekend on the sideline. She had the moment with Tobin Anderson where she put her arm around him. Like it was a nice visual. I think having done some sideline reporting myself, I felt like she was just trying to make sure, like, you're not leaving me. I got my camera. We're right here because there's a hectic scene, but also it just made for a nice visual. I thought she handled that.
Agree.
I thought she handled that great. And then it's okay to cuss. We're on True TV. Also excellent.
And Shaka gave her the milkshake.
It's a big weekend for Jamie.
Big weekend. Yeah. It's been awesome. It's been an awesome tournament so far. 2 days away. Sweet 16 coming right around the corner.
I might see you in New York again.
You might. You very well might. I'll be there Thursday night for the garden party, and that'll start with MSU K-State, and then FAU Tennessee is after that, and the other two are Vegas and UConn Arkansas is the first tip, and then Gonzaga UCLA is the second tip. Those games are on CBS. The garden games are on TBS.
I think that's a podcast.
It's a podcast. We're good to go.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck. Shouts to Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening, watching the Ion College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple and Spotify. Over to Apple, 5 stars. Leave a nice review. There's more of us than there are of them. Needs to be reflected in the comments. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do that, and we will talk to you again. I mean, who knows? But at the very latest, late Thursday night after Thursday's Sweet 16 games. Till then, take care.